Jessamon is without a doubt one of the strongest, if not arguably the strongest, tier 1 deck of the BT6 format. Hello Digimon players and fans, welcome back to another new deck profile video. Today we'll be covering all the details of my personal approach in deck building for Jessamon. We'll also be covering a basic and advanced guide on how to play the deck as well. Now first things first, if you guys are excited to see more Digimon deck profiles coming on the channel, then be sure to subscribe right now. Also give this video a like as it greatly helps with the YouTube algorithm. So to give you guys a quick introduction to Jessamon, the reason why it is considered to be one of the best decks of the current format is because it can deal a lot of damage to your opponent's security, with multiple checks and swings. It also has power with DP boosting effects, it has built-in removal and board clearing capabilities. However, the most important thing to keep in mind is that this deck can actually do all three of those things which I just mentioned all at the same time. Remember how dominant Lord Nightmon was during the BT5 format? Jessamon basically does that, but faster and better, just like Imperialdramon thanks to the inclusion of Sistermons. But with all the positive stuff aside, we all know that this deck is known to be the king of bricks. That is because the Sistermons takes up quite a lot of your deck space and slots. This means that it will greatly impact your ratio, making it different from the traditional way of deck building. And that is how the bricking aspect is derived from. So how can it be considered as tier 1? Well, a lot of it comes down to the deck building combined with a patient playstyle. And don't you worry, we'll be going over all those details throughout the video. So let's get right into the deck profile first. Alright guys, so starting with the deck profile with our babies or our Digi-Eggs, we basically play 4 Koromons right here. Now the reason why I opted in for the Koromon is simply because it has a very simple inheritable. All turns, sorry, not all turns, but your turn, if this Digimon has 4 or more like Digivolution sources, it gains 1000 DP, and that is always very likely to happen. Your whole focus is to build a Jessamon stack, and you're always going to be guaranteed 4 stacks to sort of give it that extra 1000 DP, and that 1000 DP consistently goes a long way to help you securely swing into security checks very safely. And then for the other egg, the one-off, we do have a baby Domon right here. When you attack with piercing, the Digimon gains 2000 DP. Jessamon always gets the piercing, so once you get that popped off, you know, the 2000 is actually very easy to gain, and it provides so much value overall. So moving into our rookies right here, we of course first have the 4 copies of Huckmon, and Huckmon is must have 4, you don't play any less of it. It is your core key searcher of the deck to help you find and dig and get into your resources. It can search for Huckmon, Jessamon, and your Sistermons. It can search so many targets, and the hit rates are so high with this card. And yeah, I would definitely play this, and it's just so important of this deck to have. Next up, we also have the 4 Agumons, which are also from the starter deck. Gaia Forces right here. Once again, this is a really important card because it basically gives a simple inheritable of 1000 DP during your turn with no restrictions, no requirements. It's just super easy to get into, and having this once again is the whole idea of having that Jessamon to gain that extra 1000 DP, so you always safely swing into security, which is fantastic, and you beat over almost everything in the game. Next up, we also have the 2 Guilmons, which came out from the starter deck Gallantmon recently, and this card is just also really great. It does have an a main effect of you allowing to Digivolve straight into Gallantmon for a cost of 4 as long as your opponent controls a level 6 or higher Digimon, and but mainly we play it for its inheritable. And it basically does is that your turn, once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon is deleted, you get to draw 1 card. Jessamon, you can always swing into Digimon very easily. You can delete Digimon very easily as well. So drawing the card, getting the extra draw is just going to help a lot as well to sort of push your advantages even further. Now to round up for our rookies, we do have the 2 Monodramons right here, which is 2 cost drop vanillas.
which is great for manipulating the memory gauge. You know, having your opponent just to set them to at 1 really greatly slows down their plays, and it's just that good of a card, and I do want to play a 2 of, which is why. That will basically round up for all of our rookies or level 3s. Now, you guys might notice I haven't mentioned about the Sistermon just yet, but I do want to talk about the Sistermons along with the Jesmon when I show you guys later. So we will get into that afterwards. So let's just move on to the level 4s first. Now, first off, I do play 3 Bao Huckmons right here. Now, the first thing you guys might be asking is that why not 4? You know, it should be more consistent and, you know, it should be better. Now, I've always been back and forth with this, and I tested and theorized. A lot of people right now do understand the effect of Bao Huckmon deleting a 5k, and a lot of people are starting to play lesser 5k DP Digimon overall, especially when you're against Jesmon. So you don't really get to utilize your Bao Huckmon's effect as much as they used to. Here are some other examples. People are appreciating the 6000 DP blockers way more than the 5000 ones. So that's just generally how it is, and because of that, we basically don't get to use it as often, which is why I kind of bumped it down to 1 less and have 3, and it works out great, honestly. That's all I can really say. And I definitely recommend you guys to give it a try. That's my reasoning behind it though. Next up, this one we must have 4 of, which is the starter deck Greymons right here. Now, the starter deck Greymons basically simply gives a inheritable of security +1. That's all it does, and we always want to use this to utilize and grow in our stack. I personally prefer growing this in my Jesmon stack way much more than Bao Huckmon usually. Now, I know many of you guys don't have access to this Greymon simply because it's also from the starter deck 1, and it's just difficult to get. You know, the only other way to get it is through the Tamer Party Pack, which was available initially, and not everyone had the chance. For those who are coming into the game relatively new, you know, and on a budget, this card is relatively expensive and pricey and difficult to find alone as well, which I totally understand, but it does stand for that price simply for, you know, because of how good it really is, and Jesmon really needs it. I have come up with some alternative recommendations and solutions for you guys right here, which we first off do have a Graumon from the starter deck, Gallantmon starter deck, which is also a very good budget alternative. This card is much more affordable, and it has an inheritable of giving you a memory when you delete an opponent's Digimon once per turn, during your turn as well, which is really good. Now, the other recommendation I would have for you guys is also a Dark Tyrannomon. Now, this card is also was reprinted in the starter deck for Gallantmon, but other than that, this card is just very easy to play and easy to get as well. You simply just have a low Digivolve cost into a 6k, and then you can basically build your stack from there on. I don't recommend it as much simply because it doesn't provide inheritables, but it does help you get to your Jesmon's full stack a little bit faster. The other one will be the exact same as well, which is Fugamon. Does exactly the same thing, except it just has a better hard play cost, so it's definitely nice when you're a little bit bricked up. You can kind of play this card as it's like if it was a rookie. So these are just sort of my substitute recommendations to go for the Greymon. Of course, since I only play 3 Bao Huckmons, you can add 1 more Bao Huckmon back to make it a full set of 4 if you guys don't have the Greymons. But honestly, guys, you need those Greymons. Now, for the other level 4 right here we have is 2 Cordramons. Now, this Cordramon is also really important, 1000 DP or lower Digimon, which is the reason why I play Cordramon instead of Monochromon for the 1 cost Digivolve 5000 blocker instead. Now, for our last level 4, we do play the one of Agumon. We do know what this card does. It's simply because of its ability to Digivolve on top of a Tamer, and then you can swing for game. One is good enough. I don't really see it happen often enough, but it's always nice to have to use it in some situations when we do. Now, moving on to our level 5s, we of course 100% must play 4 copies of the Savior Huckmon, and I will definitely will not recommend any less. So you must play 4. Because this is really what makes Jesmon really powerful. Now, the main thing is because of its inheritable. It allows you to make multiple swings by simply restanding the Jesmon, as long as you have a Sistermon. It also has a when Digivolving effect, allowing you to play a Sistermon from your hand, which is also quite beneficial as well. And this is basically the main card that you always want to build your Jesmon stack on top of no matter what, which is why we play 4 of, and that will always be your priority. We do have one more level 5, simply because playing the only 4 Savior Huckmons is just not good enough. We do have 1 Voltramon right here, which gives extra security +1, and very nice and heritable. No requirements, no restrictions whatsoever, so it's just really, really great. And, you know, just to bump up the lower 5 to see a bit more often. Many of the times when I did try a build where I exclusively only played Savior Huckmon as my single level 5. However, it's at times I felt it was just really slow, really, you know, has that bricky feature where you just don't get into the Savior Huckmon, which just feels really bad because by the time when you do sometimes, or when I did sometimes, it was way too late for me to come back from the game. My opponent was able to get so much advantage that putting out my Jesmon out there was just way too late already. However, this is why I do recommend playing at least one other level 5. That will be all of our level 5s. And let's move on to the level 6s. Now, the level 6s we have is the one and only Jesmon right here. Now, Jesmon is basically your bread and butter. It's your main boss Digimon of the entire deck, and you have to play 4 of, once again, no less, because it's the only level 6 that I personally play. Now, it does several things. So, first of all, it's a 3 cost to Digimon, which is really, really cheap. Really great for such a powerful Digimon. I honestly think it should be 4 sometimes as well. Anyways, when attacking, you can play a Digimon with Sistermon in its name from your hand or trash without playing memory cost. Now that's really, really good because your Sistermon gives you effects, which we will get into right after. The next second effect is your turn, once per turn, when you do play another Digimon, which the first effect does work for it as well. When you do play another Digimon, this Digimon does gain 3000 DP and piercing for the turn. This allows it to swings into any Digimon that your opponent has as suspended and then basically go over them and pierce for checks, making Jesmon immediately 14k, and that will basically run over almost anything in security. Now what makes it even better are the Sistermons, which I mentioned that I will now showcase you guys since we did finally get to see the Jesmon. The first one we have is 3 Sistermon Blancs. Now it's very standard just to play 3 of. This card cannot Digivolve on top of a rookie. There's no Digivolve cost whatsoever, so you can only hard play this card. You can hard play it from your hand, or you can hard play it via Jesmon's effect. Now, all turns, while you have a Digimon with Huckmon or Huckmon in its name, or a Royal Knight type Digimon, all of your Digimon with Sistermon in their name gain blocker. This will be your protection sort of Digimon to help you protect. Now that's only 3000 blockers, so it's not that great, but however it does have another effect where on play you trigger draw 1. So with Jesmon's effect that you bring this Sistermon out, you basically immediately get to draw a card for free, which is fantastic. Now that's the 3 Sistermon Blancs. Now for the other Sistermon we do have is Xiao, and we play 3 of right here. Sistermon Xiao works a bit differently. This is a level 4. Once again, it cannot be Digivolved on top of anything, so you must hard play it or play it with another effect. Now, all turns, all of your Digimon with Huckmon or Royal Knight in their type gain 2000 DP. With the Jesmon that I mentioned earlier, he's basically at 14,000 DP by itself. With this extra 2000, when you do play it, he goes all the way to 16, which is really powerful. That's not including the other inheritables that I mentioned earlier from the Koromon and the Agumon. Anyways, second effect is on play you gain a memory. You can retain your turns with this card sometimes and sort of continue your combos, which is really fantastic, and it's 5000 as well. Comboing with this other Sistermon, if you do fulfill the blocker requirements, this Sistermon Blanc will make your Sistermon Xiaos into blockers as well, which are 5000 blockers, which is really good. Now some of you guys might be wondering that why are we only playing 4 Jesmons and there's only 4 level 6s, which is very hard to get into. With all the draw power and the capabilities and search power of this deck, I'm confident to really easily access entire Jesmon. Some of you guys might be asking, why not play this Gallantmon? At least a one-of is pretty decent as well. I totally agree. I used to play 3 Guilmons and along with this Gallantmon right here, but however I felt in so many of my games I never ever needed this Gallantmon. I never really grew the stack until I need the Gallantmon because I was always able to get into my Jesmon before the Gallantmon ever comes in handy. Its deletion effect is great, but then it's just like, sure, it just doesn't help that much as I really thought it would. It's great that you can sort of like warp Digivolve it from the Guilmon, but you do have to pay 4 memory, often enough ending your turn essentially, and you know, you don't really get too much value off of it. So this is my personal take. I wouldn't play the Gallantmon at all. It's always been on my hand, and there's so many games, so many matches. I actually never played this card essentially because it was just sitting in my hand, and I personally thought it was a dead card in my hand. However, I will not argue that this is still a really good card to add in some certain situations and circumstances. So it's totally up to you guys as well if you want to include this card. Now that will be all of our Jessamon and Sistermons. We'll get into our level 7s, and I do play basically the 2 Blitz to allow those effects to activate and proc. Basically, Blitz Omnimon, for you guys who don't know a little bit about it, let's quickly talk about it. Basically, when Digivolving, it has Blitz, and if your memory gauge counter passes to your opponent, you're still allowed to make another attack with this Digimon. Also, when Digivolving, you can unsuspend this Digimon, so you can unsuspend and then attack first, or you can unsuspend and just sort of end your turn there. Now, it also has a built-in protection effect, which is fantastic, because if an opponent's Digimon would delete this Digimon or return it to its hand or deck, you can basically trash the bottom Digimon, which is the Jessamon below it, and then basically retain and sort of keep it on the field for you, which is really, really good. Now that will be all of our Digimon. Now let's actually show you guys the Tamers. Now I play 3 red Tamer ties right here. I would highly recommend 3. Sometimes I might even say 4, but 4 is a bit too much because deck space is really tight, but it's really crucial and really important that you need this card simply because of having your memory at 3 so that you can Digivolve onto your Jessamon and swing in the same turn. Now that's really important, but also you don't get choked out by your opponent with the memory gauge game. Also, all of your Digimon with 4 or more stacks, which is basically your Jessamon stack, will gain a security +1. With all those inheritables, your Jessamon can basically security wipe your opponent very quickly and very, very effectively. So this is why I play the 3 ties. That will be all our Tamers. Now let's move on to the options where I play 3 red memory boosts. Now, I'm so happy that this card was released. Once again, in the starter deck Gallantmon. If you guys haven't got that yet, be sure to get that deck. Also, be sure to check out our budget Gallantmon starter deck package that we did on the channel not too long ago. Very, very nice way for you guys to learn and, you know, get started for the Digimon card game as well. But anyways, this card is absolutely magnificent. The reason why I play 3 is basically the searching. Hakumon is great, you can search very efficiently with it. However, that's the only 4 copies that you would ever play. So having this really helps support the searching even faster, getting into your Jessamons, getting into your Savior Hakumons, whatever you need to basically get your combos going, and the memory boosts basically to help you extend your plays, make more combos during your turn, which is really, really fantastic. And I think it's just crucial. And then for our other options, we do have 3 Judgment of the Blade. Now, Judgment of the Blade is essentially your removal card for Jessamon. There's no need to play Gaia Forces, there's no need to really play Atomic Blasters, any type of removal, because this is the removal for the deck. And this card basically allows your Jessamon to swing into your opponent's Digimon that is unsuspended. Now, comboed along with your Jessamon's effects with Piercing and the Security +1 inheritables and its DP addition with all of that, you just basically KO any opponent's Digimon easily and deal damage at the same time, just for the cost of 1 option. Now, the other thing to keep in mind that is really cool as well is that it doesn't only work on Jessamon, it works on any Hakumon and basically Royal Knight. So Omnimon works as well, which is really, really cool and really nice, and this is why I keep this card in here as well. So this is what it does. Also, it has a security effect where you can play a Digimon with Sistermon in its name from your hand or trash without paying memory cost, and then add this card to your hand. Now this is really fantastic because sometimes in certain situations, if your opponent is exactly at 0 memory, and they hit into this, you can play a Sistermon Xiao, and the on-play effect will activate, gaining you a memory, so that you'll be basically ending your opponent's turn right there, which is really, really good. There are some clutch situations like that, and your opponent has to respect that sometimes because it feels really bad. Anyways, that will be for Judgment of the Blade. Now, to finally round off for our option, of course, we have a Delicate Plan. Security Control is just a really, really powerful deck in this format as well, and a Delicate Plan is basically crucial. So that basically rounds off for all our 50 card deck profile right here.
Now that we got the deck profile completed, let's quickly show you guys the key concepts of how to play this deck along with a few simple combos.
Now, for the playstyle and strategy of this deck is actually relatively straightforward and simple. I like this slower playstyle, a bit more of building a stack and then getting ready. Once you're ready, you go in with your massive attacks and then you basically go for game right there. I like to focus just on Jessamon and stick to that single game plan and then just basically end it all in one go. So of course, first off, you're going to be hatching off most likely your Koromon, preferably always, you know, building your Agumon, if not the Guilmon, on top of your stack. And then when you get to your level 4s, like I mentioned before, it may be situational, but depending on what you really need and what you want, you will go into your Greymon or Baohakmon. But I personally, like I mentioned, I like the Greymon a bit more, so let's just say we get into the Greymon right here. Afterwards, then we go into the Savior Huck. 100% we will always want this most of the time. And then lastly, we go into the Jessamon. So once you have your Jessamon stack ready to go, in most cases, you basically build in your raising, wait in your raising, wait until it's safe, and you wait for your full combo. Now, what does it mean by having your full combo? Well, full combo could potentially mean just having access to Sistermons, whether in your hand or in trash, ready to go to be played with Jessamon's effect. Another example is in a situation you would also have Tai in most of the cases, and having Tai would really help out because in a different scenario, let's just say you begin your turn like this at 3 memory, you basically can just push up your Savior Huckmon and you're at 3 memory, you go to 0 essentially to go into Jessamon, and they can start your full combo right there as well. So you first off, always what you want to do is swing in to security checks +1, 2, so 3 checks with Jessamon, whether if you're attacking into opponent's Digimon, whatever, it doesn't really matter because there's piercing no matter what. So you swing in and then you use its when attacking ability to basically play from your hand a Sistermon Blanc so that you can draw 1, or in an alternative scenario, you play Sistermon Xiao to gain extra more DP so you can safely swing in and check through the security checks or run over the opponent's Digimon very easily. So at this point, your Jessamon is essentially at 14, 16, and 18 DP, which is way beyond anything, and it basically will kill anything in the game essentially at this point. So you break those securities. Now, not just breaking the securities, you use your Savior Huckmon's effect to unsuspend your Jessamon. Now you also gain a memory, so you're also at 1 memory as well because of Xiao, and then you basically do those checks. That's why Savior Huckmon is really good, because now you can attack once more, and you can actually use Jessamons when attacking once again to play another Sistermon. Now this time, let's just say you want to play Sistermon Blanc. It's always optimal to have one of each on the board so you get a wide range of the variety of effects to sort of help you stay in the game and not get outplayed by your opponent at all. At this point, you basically ran in for 6 security checks essentially, and that's basically all the security down, and then all it takes is that your opponent has to be forced to play blockers, otherwise it's the end game for them for next turn, or they have to find some way to clear your board essentially. So that will be the first combo number 1 right here. Now combo number 2 is very similar again. Once you have Jessamon ready and you have like those multiple checks, let's say once again you have the Tai, which is great, so you can swing in for multiple checks once again. Sometimes you want to wait because if you know you're against a specific matchup, their security is going to be very deadly, and you don't want their security to ruin your day, because once you lose your Jessamon, it's always very slow to come back, which is like not that great. So you can always build a second stack as you're going at it, but then it will take time, but then mostly you lose a lot of momentum, which is why a delicate plan is extremely handy because all security options basically don't get to activate essentially. Now by playing that along with it, since you have Jessamon ready to go from your raising area, you will have 3 memory, you'll pay 1 memory to go for delicate plan, so you have 2, and you can go for the security checks. Now the full-blown combo, once again, is to basically having all 4 of the all 4 of these cards all together at once. You can play your Sistermons with the Jessamon's effect to bring them out, and at the same time you'll be playing these 2, a Judgment of the Blade, where you'll be basically swinging to your opponent's unsuspended Digimon, do piercing checks, removing Digimon at the same time, and then suspending once again, and attack another Digimon, and also doing multiple checks at the same time. Now that basically just clears off the entire board, entire field, and it just gives you so much advantage from there. So that's basically how you want to play this Jessamon deck in general. This is overall my favorite playstyle of the deck and how I like to go about it. Patience, like I mentioned before, is very, very important for this one. So this is how you basically end your opponent from there. And in most cases, sometimes The full final one-shot combo is, of course, if you do have the Omnimon in your hand to top it off in the end to go for a blitz swing, because, you know, mostly they only have 5 securities anyways. With 6 checks like that, you basically end the game, which is basically that one-shot OTK combo all the way there.
That will wrap up for my very own take on the Jessamon deck. If you guys enjoyed the video and found it helpful, please give it a like. If you have any suggestions, recommendations, or questions, be sure to share it with everyone in the comments section down below. We also got a lot more of BT6 deck profiles coming your way, so be sure to hit that subscribe button right now and turn on that notification bell to stay tuned. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you in the next video, and this is Vault, signing out.